What is up, everybody? This is Timmy Tryhard, and today I want to talk to you about a little game called Everhood. Developed by Foreign Gnomes and Surefire Games, by Nodgren and Jordi Roca. But before I can even get into the game, let's deal with the elephant in the room first, that being its strong similarity to Undertale. Undertale was a powerful game to a lot of people. I don't think this game will have the same effect, as the subject matter is a bit more abstract and less relatable, but the success and impact of Undertale cannot be denied. It clearly had strong influence in the creation of this game. Yes, visually, the sound effects, text font, black background, black text box. There are strong references like the ATM Flowey and WD Gastro looking souls across the game. It's a little bit distracting at first if you are well aware of what Undertale is. However, and I say this with full confidence, it is very much a surface level similarity to Undertale. I'm not one to reject a game on it looking similar to another game, even if it's inspired by it. It should be obvious, but come on, judging a book by its cover is pretty stupid. If you play games like Earthbound, or Mother 2, or even Mother 3, all these games fall into a more experimental yet interpretive gaming experience. The battles always try something different, the characters are always eccentric or wacky, there's always a sense of humor in play with everything. And they typically try to mess with the player by subverting expectations or simply doing what you wouldn't expect. I know what it looks like. It's difficult to ignore or deny, but I can assure you, this game still offers something new, something fresh and something fun. So much so that I even replayed the game multiple times. I will be referencing Undertale a few times in this video to give better perspective on some things, but keep in mind this is still a very different experience. Now that that's out of the way, I'll get into the game itself. Now looking at the game, the overworld stuff is pretty straightforward. You explore an area talking to NPCs, winning battles to earn items that will further progress the story. In regards to battle, it kind of reminds me of Mega Man Battle Network or Mega Man Star Force if you've ever played those games. Maybe even one step from Eden. But with a twist. What pops? Oh, right. I need to state up front. This is a very rhythmic game, not a rhythm game. Similar to the likes of Just Shapes and Beats if you've ever played that. In Just Shapes and Beats, the music was designed to guide the player through the levels, because the projectiles and obstacles you face in that game are always coming at you with the rhythm of the music. You as a player are independent of that rhythm happening on screen. Now, the game opens asking the player to give up their humanity in order to become immortal. This immediately got me curious what themes the game would be playing with. When the game actually begins, you are controlling some wooden doll thing who resembles a wizard lots of people love. Before you can even wake up though, some jackass decides to come and steal your arms. And after some fights, this becomes the primary goal, getting your arm back. As for the story itself, I liked it. It won't be everyone's cup of tea. It has very different themes I don't see very often in games. I will get into some of the details shortly if you're interested. But for now, I do want to talk about the combat. When first starting the game, you get plenty of difficulty options. The recommended is hard, which I did try at first, but I did have to end up lowering about halfway through. I'm happy you can at least change the difficulty midway or at any time though. Difficulty is solely focused on how much health the bosses have, along with how much health you have, and how quickly it can regenerate. And this is important because being able to regenerate quicker is very, very helpful, especially if you're getting hit repeatedly. Combat is very unique as you try to avoid attacks and patterns that are moving with the music. However, again, you do not move with the music, and it will take some practice getting used to the system to get better at it. One of the coolest moments in the game is when you and a few characters decide to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons. This is where you get a taste of what it's like to fight back in battles. You receive something called the Sword that deflects red attacks. Yes, even this douchebag points out the terrible name. The challenge ramps up here because you have to pay attention and keep in mind staying on the offensive while naturally being in the defensive like you have been up to this point in the game. After that, the rest of the game's combat changes to a more active role as you deflect shots back at the bosses you face. In regards to deflecting, you will be trying to nab two of the same color to attack back. However, you have to keep in mind other attacks they may block yours. It gets complicated very quickly, as you meant to move a different direction or jump when you intended to deflect. Basically a lot of stumbling. I know I stumbled quite a lot when this happened. This addition to attacking changes the entire dynamic of what you have learned so far. Personally, I enjoyed the dodging more than being able to attack back, but overall it was still really good. However, due to this shift, I did notice that the game kind of mistakenly teaches the player to stay in one lane, growing habits of taking the path of least resistance. But I feel that this is a trap you don't want to fall into. Don't get used to standing in one lane, run into the danger and get used to moving rapidly. You'll thank yourself for it, especially as you get further into the game. Also, after this more offense-focused approach, I found the game to be far more difficult. I even had the difficulty drop to the story difficulty. However, this was only in my first playthrough. Combat itself is just super satisfying, especially when you get dodges like right in between the different notes coming at you. But get too cocky and you just end up dying, especially on more challenging battles. There are a variety of different attacks the bosses will use, like the pillars that will come at you to block different attacks, or just even the moving ones that move back and forth left and right. It's a lot to keep in mind when you're trying to play through all the battles, so it does require quite a lot of practice. Combat visuals can also become an obstacle and sometimes can be too much to look at. There is a point of sensory overload if you are not used to such visuals. Rhythmic and rhythm games commonly employ these kinds of visuals, but this was genuinely the first time my eyes were mildly bothered. Keep a lamp on nearby and check that photosensitive box if it gets too much. Luckily, only a couple battles ever really felt like this. Okay, before I get into the story, I am putting up a warning that the rest of the video will contain some spoilers. If anything I said sounds interesting and fun, I highly recommend picking the game up and playing yourself. It's on the cheaper side and is available for the Nintendo Switch and PC. Many times, I find the most enjoyable narratives of games are ones that take advantage of the medium, as in a story only a game could tell. Everhood is one of these games. For example, Undertale has themes of building bonds with something fictional, something that isn't alive but seems to be alive, letting go of a world because you believe they deserve to be happy, or returning to it to play it as a game. If you have experienced games like Undertale, Pony Island, or even Doki Doki Literature Club, or its inspiration, You and Me and Her, then you'll understand what I'm getting at here. Okay, so, you're traveling with this blue thief, fighting anyone in your way, trying to stop you from reaching your arm. This is more or less the game introducing every character and boss you fight. However, after you get your arm, the entire focus of the game changes, pushing you in a direction very much leaning on the reverse of something like Undertale. What I mean is, you gotta kill everybody with a soul. This tree dude gives a quick spiel about how everyone has been suffering for an insane amount of years from their immortality, and that the only way to end this suffering is to end their lives as they know it. Oh, that did a 180 I wasn't expecting. I even attempted anything I could think of to not do that, but I already made the decision when I started the game to give up my humanity, letting go of any feelings towards any of these characters. Granted, they aren't as fleshed out as I'd like them to be, but I find the reason for this pretty interesting. And it's a reason that you don't really understand until the game's practically over. Everhood brings forth topics tackling the concept of immortality, and what it would be like to live forever. I find this theme very fascinating to discuss. Sure, immortality is very much a pipe dream in today's world, but there are organizations today that have been studying and researching ways to extend human life and combat mortality. Everhood's take on this is that immortality is suffering, and all actions or goals result in no meaning. I will admit it isn't 100% clear with what is going on, but regardless, I think it works. despite its vague yet humorous conveyance to the player. Everhood plays with the idea of the afterlife, questions and answers in defining existence. I am all in when games attempt to tackle these themes. I wouldn't say Everhood does this perfectly or anything, but it got my neurons firing, if you know what I mean. As in, it got me thinking. Though oddly enough, like I said, the characters become far more interesting on a second playthrough, due to knowing the context. The context is a very important factor in understanding and enjoying the world you're exploring. It's just a bit unfortunate that the characters don't seem very developed on your first playthrough, since the context that they are all immortal and suffering, I feel adds to all of them, and it makes their words and actions make far more sense. I mean, really, what is it like actually living forever? Sure, you have all the time you could ever want, but the dilemma is that whatever you spend that time with will ultimately not matter, because time is never ending. You can finish every goal you could ever want, and it would amount to nothing for your life, as everyone you know will eventually die, as will anyone who knows your works or success. It's ultimately lonely and meaningless. Life is compelling because it has an endpoint, and one aspect Everhood brings forth is memory. With infinite time at their disposal, it's clear that all the characters exhibit memory loss. And they have been around for so long, they don't even resemble being human anymore either. Like, this guy's human? He's human? They're human? One tiny explanation to this is one of the characters, Professor Orange, is obsessed with doing experiments with their immortality, causing more suffering. So I assume that he's caused a lot of these physical changes to these characters. So yeah, you murder everyone to succeed in this game. Basically, the genocide run is the main run. What do you say, Bops? You're immortal? Why world domination? Why is it always world domination with you guys? Okay, I don't think you can legally say that. Anyway, now that some time has passed, and I have let the game kind of sit in my head for a while, in retrospect, there is a lot about the game I miss. Upon first or second completion of it, I didn't really feel any attachment to the characters. They were pretty simple, but I don't consider that to be a bad thing. But having finished it weeks ago now, the characters do stick out in my head. I miss Rastabeast, and remember him wanting to maintain the friendships he's had over the many thousands or millions of years he's been alive. Looking back at the vampire dude, and his wanting to change his name all the time, only because he wanted to be remembered with a good name, because he knows eventually, maybe someday, his life will end, but it just doesn't matter because, well, he's living forever. Or some of the other characters who are just confused and panicking or suffering. It's wild. One of the other helpful characters, Nosferatu, who sneezes every time he speaks, left an impression on me, because he never actually wants to fight you, and from what I recall, there is no fight with him. All he wants to do is play some video games. Just hang out. And when it comes time to end everybody, it's kind of hard to do it sometimes with some of these characters. Some of these characters don't understand, you know, and some characters are actually suffering very overtly. The one thing I would love added to this game is a boss rush of some kind, or a way to do the fights outside of the campaign, because these fights are very fun, and I would love to just challenge them as I unlock them in a separate mode without having to do all the story, similar to other rhythmic or rhythm games where you have a track list of some kind. It would be pretty awesome. In my opinion, this game should not be missed. Everhood, while it does wear its inspiration on its sleeve, is still a very unique and fun experience. Still very compelling. Gets your brain going, gets those juices flowing. So give it a shot. Even if you watch this whole video and haven't played it yet, it still has things to offer you. I mean, it even has a random kart racer. I don't know. That's cool. I like that. But anyway, I'm Timmy Tryhard. Thanks for watching. leave a like, dislike, whatever. And I hope to see you for whatever I come up with next. Bye.